Hello, YouTube world. My name is Mike, and my partner is Byron. Say hello to the people.
What up?
Byron is trying to coin the catchphrase, "What up?"
What up is going to be the new hey yo.
Sounds good. I'm down with this. What we're doing here is the first podcast of the Squared Circle Jerks. It's going to be a pro wrestling based podcast, although, I mean, we may talk about some other things, just some things that perhaps cross section with pro wrestling, be it music, mixed martial arts, whatever the case may be. Just for variety's sake. And this particular podcast is just us giving you an intro, talking about what we're about when it comes to pro wrestling, how long we've been fans, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, what promotions we're familiar with.
New Japan.
All New Japan is on that list. So Byron, take us through it.
God damn it, make me go again. This is take 2, by the way, so I'll get to do this again. I would say, we rewind the dial all the way back. I would say that I initially in my formative years I was more familiar with WCW than I was with WWF in a weird way, because just luck of the draw, the way the channels work themselves out and syndication and things like that. I got to watch WCW Power Hour whenever I came home from school, pretty much. And WWF was on Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons or something like that, and I could only watch it once a week, and if I missed it, I missed it. There was no way around it because the parents didn't really approve of wrestling, whereas they were at work during the week, so I could watch Power Hour whenever I wanted. And so, yeah, I got to watch the Dangerous Alliance when it was the Dangerous Alliance with Paul E. Dangerously before he became Paul Heyman, or, whatever, however you want to classify that. And, yeah, so I got to watch him clock people in the back of the head with a cell phone. I got to watch Cactus Jack tear his own hair out and throw himself off of the ring apron, miss his spot, and then slam his back into the ground against Vader. I got to watch him go, people trying to track down Cactus Jack in different mental institutions. I watched that whole angle. I remember watching Hogan versus Warrior at WrestleMania, whatever. And was it WrestleMania 6?
I believe it was WrestleMania 6.
I think so.
It actually predates my fandom to a degree.
I'm not going to bother trying to track that down. We're just going to go with I'm right, and it was WrestleMania 6. And yeah, so I'm used to back in my day, kayfabe was strong, and anybody who said it was fake was the ultimate in jaded asshole, and things of that nature. That's pretty much where I'm coming from. I enjoyed the whole Attitude Era. I enjoyed the Monday Night Wars. After WCW folded, everything got really boring and really formulaic to the point where I was pretty much insulted that they would bother even going to air with the crap that they were trying to show me on WWE. And I got really turned off, and I went through a period of probably 5 or 6 years of not watching at all. I missed the entirety of the Shield run. I missed anything to do with the Usos up until last year. Last year, WrestleMania 32 was the first wrestling show I'd watched in, I couldn't even tell you how long. It was pretty okay, and I noticed that actually they were having women wrestle matches, which was cool and intriguing. And there was an actual tag team division again, which was kind of fun. Various things of that nature. So I've kind of, in the last little more than a year, I've come back into wrestling, and I literally got so turned off I didn't watch any. I've really never watched TNA. I can't remember the last time I don't think I've ever watched an entire episode of TNA, but I have seen matches from them. I do own a Best of the X Division DVD But that's pretty much it as far as TNA goes. Ring of Honor, I was a fan of back in the day, but I got so turned off wrestling, I couldn't even be bothered to track that down. And New Japan, Mio and I have been watching. I watched probably, like 2 or 3 months more than you, maybe?
Somewhere in that general ballpark.
Yeah, so I started watching last summer when they were doing the G1 Climax, and watched the day 18 and 19 live on NewJapanProWrestling.com, or was it NJPW1972.com now, something like that.
That is correct.
There you go. Mio and I've been watching Lucha Underground together, even though he won't let me watch it anymore because he's being some sort of weird. He's like he's throwing cold water on my whole party here. Cold water Mio, stealing his gimmick from Larson. And I've been really enjoying my friend Joey, we've got a Squared Circle Jerks secret Facebook group, which this will be posted to later on. Shouts to my friend Joey, who turned me on to OSW reviews, and I've been really enjoying them. I've been really enjoying Steven Larson, even though they've got some weird quirks I don't agree with. And the Wrestle Talk TV guys are fantastic as well. So that's sort of, I really enjoy watching those. The What Culture guys, I was a big fan of, and then now not so much. They seem to be, repetitive, formulaic, like WWE.
It's a little harsh to compare What Culture to WWE.
They've all got their shticks, and they stick to their shticks pretty hard. But other than that, I enjoy them. I would say I enjoy them more than I enjoy actual WWE, but that's not going a whole lot farther. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, and I think I've gone over pretty much everything. How about you?
As for myself, I had some similar problems to you. My mom was very much not a fan of wrestling, and I do believe that the fact that I'm into boxing, mixed martial arts, kickboxing, combat sports in general is probably one of her larger disappointments in life. Not the largest. We won't go into what the largest is. So I did kind of have to sneak around behind her back a little bit, so I couldn't watch regularly early on. My earliest memory of wrestling is a match between the 1-2-3 Kid and Savio Vega against the Blues Brothers, or whatever Ron and Don Harris were in WWE in the mid-90s.
I think they were the Bruise Brothers.
Might have been
just the Harris twins.
It wasn't the Harris twins. It was like Bruise sounds like it might have been the answer, but they're like they're hillbilly-ish gimmick.
I don't remember that, but I interject and say that I remember watching the 1-2-3 Kid get the win over Razor Ramon on TV.
Indeed, I have seen that many times since, but I did not see it live or at the time.
I remember very distinctly because even as a child, I'm going to step on your stuff here. Even as a child, I recognized that the local talent was not getting the win. But when this 1-2-3 Kid showed up and scored the win over Razor Ramon, that blew my mind. That was a whole other thing that is going on now.
And it launched the career of Sean Waltman. Aside from that, I was definitely more WWE or WWF guy than a WCW. We didn't seemingly have WCW. We had like a really basic cable package when I was young because my dad was pretty happy if he got Star Trek, basically, and my mom was not a big TV watcher, so I was kind of limited to what we had. And at the time, TSN, Sports Network here in Canada, carried WWF, so we had that, and I got to watch that. I can remember Stone Cold Steve Austin before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin as the Ringmaster, and thinking the gimmick was terrible.
Stunning. I'm going to continue to step with 2 points. The Harris brothers were both known as the Blue Brothers. Blue spelled without the E, so because they're retarded, I guess. And also between 87 and 95, they were known as the Bruise Brothers, as previously stated. And Hollywood Blondes for life. I remember watching the Hollywood Blondes and going, God damn, these guys are the best.
I kind of, I don't know, I fell out of love with the WWF for a while, then came back with the Attitude Era, with the rise of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was, really big in my school, became cool again. I largely got really tired of anyone ever telling me it was fake. Not because I particularly ever believed it was real, because even as a kid, like I was very familiar with actual wrestling. Both my father and my uncle were wrestlers in high school, and my uncle actually went to college as a wrestler. So my family was pretty grounded in the idea of what was actual wrestling. So the fact that professional wrestling was fake was a little bit obvious to me, and it always puzzled me why people would decide to bring that up as a way of kind of devaluing it. Because I mean, what on TV? What do you watch that is real? Was kind of my default comeback.
When was the last time you read a book that wasn't made up?
That's kind of the thing. Like I'm thinking, like back at the time, it's like you realize, Simpsons isn't real, or the mainframe 3D animation stuff like Reboot was real big at the time, and Beast Wars and stuff, and it's like that's all fake too. I do believe that there is like slightly a problem if you're watching wrestling and believing it is real. That probably does say something about you, but I've always been annoyed by that concept of it's fake, therefore you shouldn't be watching it, because we watch a lot of fake stuff. But continuing on, unlike Byron, I did actually watch TNA Impact for the longest time, and was really frustrated with that company, because there was a ton of talent, like an amazing amount of talent, be Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. Some of these guys are now in WWE and you're becoming very familiar with. Others kind of missed the boat because they were in TNA and didn't get to WWE, didn't get their chance to shine. Looking at you, Christopher Daniels is an absolute prime example of that.
Might I interject and say that Christopher Daniels has had plenty of opportunities to be in the WWE?
I agree. He's not taken them.
He has had so many dark matches, it's not funny.
This is true. I actually can remember dark matches for almost everyone I listed there. Like, I can remember Samoa Joe in a dark match, the Briscoe brothers in a dark match, AJ Styles in a dark match, Teddy Hart in a dark match, and it was always amazing to me that some of these great independent wrestlers didn't get signed. And that was another thing that always kind of annoyed me about WWE, is that their idea of what sold kind of always, it irked me and turned me off at various points. I enjoyed the Attitude Era, like I said. I enjoyed the Ruthless Aggression Era, and then kind of fell off. And not because it became PG or anything, but just because things became more repetitive, less creative, less interesting to me.
I got really, really tired of Jerry Lawler screaming about tits literally every 5 seconds, and them trying to sell me on some bullshit match or some botched bullshit that should never have been covered up in the first place, and them trying to sell me bullshit like it was gold.
There was that.
It was mainly JR and the King that turned me off wrestling. JR and the King, to me, are not the worst commentary duo of all time, but they're up there. But only, and I'm going to stress this, only because they tried to toe the company line as hard as possible.
That's been my stance on just wrestling commentary in general. Like, I don't even judge the commentators anymore. I just judge the WWE production company line. For example, I fully admit I have no idea if Byron Saxton on WWE TV right now is a good commentator. I've never heard him away from it.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. WWE commentation is only as good as when Vince takes a day off. Like, as soon as Vince takes a day off, you'll notice a dramatic uptake in the quality of commentating. When he's there, they're all shit. Every single one of them. because Vince doesn't have a goddamn clue what people need to be talking about anymore.
Pretty much. Just to get back on track, like I said, watched ROH, watched a lot of independent wrestling. Was a big fan of Combat Zone Wrestling, although not so much the like overly deathmatch stuff. I actually
don't lie to the people.
No, I honestly didn't really care for like when guys were getting hit with like weed whackers and stuff. That to me was always dumb. Like I enjoyed hardcore matches. I enjoyed ECW. I did not see ECW live or anything like that. When your parents are not really into you watching wrestling and, things are on pay-per-view or kind of special order channels, that kind of thing, you're not going to see them. And that was basically the deal with ECW. I've watched it since. I enjoyed some of it. I think you can definitely go too far with hardcore wrestling. And if you want examples of that, look at XPW and CZW at times. Shikara was a big Shikara fan. I watched Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. PWG, great stuff. Border City Wrestling was something I attended when it existed. That was always fun for me.
Was that the Scott D'Amore promotion?
That was the Scott D'Amore promotion, yes.
Nice.
Like I said, I watched TNA Impact and really enjoyed the X Division stuff. I really enjoyed not so much like Spot Fest altogether, but just good wrestling matches, I guess. And over the course of this podcast, perhaps you will start to ascertain what I think of as good in that regard. Byron got me turned on to New Japan, so I've been watching that a lot lately. And, of course, also Lucha Underground. And then from a podcast standpoint, I listen to the Solid Monsters podcast. I listen to What Culture sometimes. I listen to Steven Larson sometimes. I'm never really big on the Wrestle Talk guys, to be honest.
You should check them out. They've got the whole Wrestle Talk podcast. I really like the frank attitude, and they're not really. There's just really no bullshit. They say what they want to say, and they speak from experience, sort of a thing. And yeah, I enjoy them.
Aside from that, OSW, always great, always love it. I did get to do one wrestling match when I was younger, in my early 20s. I had a friend who was involved in professional wrestling, and one time I was there just kind of like as one of his backstage guests and got paid $50 to go do a squash match where I basically did absolutely nothing because the guy who was supposed to take the match didn't show up. So,
excellent.
Got to do a match, got paid $50. There's my brush with fame in wrestling.
That is the best of all things. That's the best payday ever. Your guy no-showed. Here's $50.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think that's pretty much my history with professional wrestling. My love for it. My downturns with it. Let's go into what it is that we like about wrestling. I mean, we kind of touched upon it, but like, what specifically we enjoy about wrestling that keeps us coming back to really a lover that kind of keeps beating us down.
Yeah, it is a bit of an abusive spouse, isn't it?
It is an abusive spouse for sure. We are battered spouse syndrome all the way.
Indeed. I will say that what I enjoy about wrestling is the same as what I enjoy about a good movie. Once you are invested, all you have to do is hook me. Hook me at the beginning and I'm with you the whole way through. I don't care if it's predetermined, fake, lol, whatever. Basically whatever any kind of non-wrestling fan wants to throw at you, fine, whatever. If you can hook me at the beginning of an episode and you don't blow your load early and you keep going through the whole thing, I love it. It's great. I will, case in point, WrestleMania, this previous April. It was, or was it in March? I'm pretty sure it's in April. Anyway, WrestleMania 33. There was heavy rumors that the Hardy Boys were coming back and they were going to do it at WrestleMania. And not only did they pull that off, but the New Day came out and sold it so well. Case in point, Kofi Kingston took some, I can't remember what it was, he took off some gear and he kind of took a step and a half towards the ring, like, oh, it's on, and the New Day's coming down to interject themselves into this tag team match. And then the Hardy Boys theme comes on. I lost my shit. And Joey, shouts to Joey, was there right with me in the room, and we were jumping around, freaking out like tiny children. That is why I love wrestling. When you disappoint me, when you try and cover up a botched move, listen, if you got a commentator that can cover up a botched move and do it really well, I'm still on board. Not only I'm probably more on board than I was before, because now I'm appreciating the commentary booth. But if it's just really, at this point, I've seen so much wrestling, it's hard to kind of pin down. I've just got so much experience with it. And I can tell when it's not going right, and I can tell when it's going pretty good, and I can tell what somebody's going for but maybe didn't achieve. And when it's going completely right, I'm a kid again. It's like, oh my god, he's gonna beat him. You're right there with the wrestler, with the commentator. When it's all going well, it's going perfectly, and it's watching a live action movie right there on your couch.
Very much the same. I will go, there's one other way I think you can lose me in a wrestling match, and it's something that is probably one gripe with New Japan to certain times, is that sometimes the wrestling doesn't make sense within its own kind of rule set.
Yeah.
Its own universe, as it were. What I mean by that is, like, every once in a while, I'll see a wrestler get hit with, like, a double finisher move or some kind of, big moment, and I like that should be the end of the match. And then he kicks out. I go, how did, you'll go back like 2 matches before on the same card and be like, well, then how the hell did that end up being a finish? Like, I understand, like, there's differing levels of, if we're going to take a fighting game route to this to a degree, different levels of toughness. This guy's a 10, this guy's a 7, this guy's a, and there's different things that are going to put him away. But every once in a while, there's just one moment where I'm just like, and you just lost me. You just truthfully lost my immersion in the match. But one of the greatest things, one of the things I enjoy the most is when I'm watching a wrestling match and I get completely immersed in the combination of the storyline and the action, and I forget, not that it's fake, but I'm able to immerse myself to the point where it doesn't matter that it's fake or predetermined or that they're working together or whatever, and I'm just absolutely loving that moment. If you want an example of that, look at the Naito versus Kenny Omega match.
Ooh, child.
That was fantastic. If you want to look at Cage versus the Mac in Lucha Underground, that's another example of it where I'm immersed. I care about who's going to win. I care where this is going from here. I'm enjoying it. Very much like a good TV series or a good movie. You're interested in where it's going and all that, and it just doesn't matter that it's fake. You'll lose me if, for a lot of the same reasons Byron talked about, covering up a botch or just covering up general BS, or my personal pet peeve is, when someone's contract expires or something and it drastically affects the storyline, and it's just kind of like, quote, real life business shit getting in the way of where this should be going. And that's not just WWF. I think, people are probably going to think I'm referring to like the CM Punk stuff or things of that nature. I'm just talking about this in general. If you want me to provide a specific non-WWF example, for example, the Matt Sydal stuff in New Japan was a good example of that, where I'm taken out of it because Matt Sydal got busted for drugs and pretty much had to be let go by the company, and it completely dropped a storyline right in the middle, and it was one that I was enjoying.
Yes, but we did, to New Japan's credit, now we have Taguchi Japan.
Taguchi Japan!
Exactly.
There's an example. Okay, that's an example of what we love right there. If you're not familiar with Taguchi Japan, it's so very silly, but yet so comedically great and enjoyable that we pop whenever they come out. Like it's oh man. And like Taguchi is not an example of like a particularly great in-ring competitor, but he just has this. He has this mind for comedy.
Yeah, he's sort of the Rey Mysterio of New Japan, where he has the same match pretty much every time, but you're still gonna pop when he does the funky weapon or any of the signature spots. You're still gonna pop.
Exactly, and that's always fantastic. Which is I guess the other element of it I really like is what, if you don't have to make me get lost in it in a serious note. You can do it through comedy as well.
Mm-hmm. Like my boy
Yanu, great example. Just trying to think of one that is a bit more mainstream. An example of maybe WWE doing it right. To a great degree, the Dudley Boys stealing Christian's ass cream was great. The Booker T Goldust tag team, another great example of that, where it was so funny that the cheese factor was completely ignorable.
Yeah, literally everything Eddie Guerrero ever did.
Something Shawn Michaels has done as well. I guess we'll touch on favorite wrestlers next. I was always a mark for the Dudley Boys. I know some things about Bubba Ray Dudley, aka Bully Ray, being frankly a bit of a bully backstage. But but you know what? I'm very much into their work. Very big fans. Briscoe Brothers, of course. Kevin Owens / Kevin Steen, because I'm a fat guy.
Steelizer
OP. I loved a lot of Raven stuff, although he was a bit at times as well. Which I think any wrestler at some point is going to do something that just isn't very good. I'm really enjoying the Sheamus and Cesaro stuff in WWE right now.
They're the best. Literally the best.
And this is coming from a guy who's not really a Sheamus fan at all.
No,
I didn't hate Sheamus like some people did. For me, he was always like perfectly serviceable, but that I didn't have anything that kind of pushed him over the top for me.
I remember not paying attention to wrestling for an extended period of time, and then I found out that they had some kind of strange fucking pale guy with tomato soup on his head as their champion, and I turned around and went, what the fuck? No wonder I don't pay attention to wrestling anymore. But his teaming with Cesaro, aka the Castagnoli, is the best.
Yeah, it's probably the highlight of Cesaro's WWE run as well.
Which is fucking sad.
Which is sad because he's a fantastic talent. Which does bring, I think, a really good point that I think repetitively promoters try to bury in a certain regard, and that is that you grasp that brass ring. I'm doing a terrible Vince McMahon impression right now. You grasp that brass wing and you go through the glass ceiling, and there's no glass ceiling here. No, there absolutely is. How you treat a talent is always going to impact how over they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cesaro Sheamus stuff is perfectly a great example of that. As much as I'm loving Sheamus right now, the realistic side of my brain realizes he's not really any different. He's got
the perfect foil at this point.
Yeah, he's probably enjoying himself more into it. But if we were to kind of rate him again, to use the fight game analogy, nothing has substantially changed. And because he's being booked well, we're into him now. And because Cesaro's being booked well, we're into him now.
Everybody's awesome when they're being booked correctly. It's just too bad the WWE can't book more than 3 people at a time that are doing well.
Yeah, the number of people that WWE right now is booking properly is it's pretty minimal. I'd say it's Braun Strowman. It's
And they only book him correctly like 70% of the time.
yeah, it's basically Braun Strowman. I think Kevin Steen's been booked quite well. AJ Styles, Jericho. Although that's because Jericho is a genius. By the way, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Jericho.
Yeah. Lion Salt. I need the Lion Salt to come back in the next iteration.
Yes. Okay, so we spent some time on my favorite stuff. Yours, sir. Take us away.
I would have to say my favorite stuff of all time. I was around for and paying attention for the ECW explosion. I was watching probably, well, let's see, when I'm just like relating high school here. I was probably paying attention to ECW between 97 and when it closed, or maybe a tiny bit earlier than that. At the time I'd moved, the family had moved out of the city, so we didn't have the channels that I would require. And a friend of mine, I would just give a friend of mine a shitload of video cassettes, and he would record them for me, and I would watch them when I could get the tapes from him. And I was a massive mark for RVD. I don't remember Taz so much, so maybe that can pinpoint my area of watching. I remember New Jack being massively awesome and crazy, and I didn't realize until much later that he was a giant weirdo. Things of that nature. I was a big Road Warriors mark. I was a big mark for, when I was a child, The Ultimate Warrior. Again, didn't realize how crazy he was until later. Things like that. ROH didn't show up until well after ECW. And yeah, it was just things like that were the best. It was Lance Storm. Gotta say, shouts to Lance Storm.
If I could be serious for a moment.
Seriously. Impact players. There was a lot of ECW I really enjoyed. Impact players, Roadkill and Doring, dropping the Danaconda. You got the Lancaster Chicken Plucker. There was just so much in ECW that was so good. And to contrast that against WWE, they might have still been WWF at the time, maybe? I don't remember when that changeover was. But there was just so many good matches, just matches. Wasn't even anything else. I just enjoyed the wrestling so much in the original ECW that when you watched WWE, the only thing they could do to compete with, literally the only thing they could do to compete with the ECW was production quality. And WCW usually had them beat on that too. So in high school there was a lot of Wolfpack going on in my high school. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, I would say, and going forward from there, ROH was clearly superior to WWE for match quality, so that was awesome. A big mark for Samoa Joe, Nigel McGuinness, Roderick Strong. Good seeing him getting some stuff going on right now. Davey Richards, why he hasn't been the WWE champion for the last 6 years running, I don't understand.
Supposedly he won't sign with them because he enjoys the freedom of not working for them.
Fair enough, but please go to Japan, sir. I would kill. Can you imagine Davey Richards versus Okada? Holy fuck.
I remember watching a PWG show. It was Davey Richards versus... He wasn't really known to us yet. He wasn't even the Prince yet, but it was Fergal Devitt, a.k.a. Finn Balor. And at that point, I became a massive mark for both men. Davey Richards, I knew and was a bit of a mark for before. But this pushed him over the top. And it was my first... I'm pretty sure my first exposure to Fergal Devitt. And
probably.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, just match quality gets me crazy every single time. PWG, I haven't watched a ton. Mio's obviously watched way more than I have, but I've enjoyed. Well, did that come through? Apparently, I've been messaged on Facebook.
Didn't hear it. We're good.
Awesome. Carrying on. But basically, match quality and hot crowds get me going every single time, and it's just nothing else I can really explain. It's I'm a big mark for a bit of a stiff match and a high work rate, and if you fit any of those bills, then I'm good to go. And if you're not Toru Yano, then you are not funny enough.
You will probably also at some point hear of our various boy stables. Byron's president boy is the Sublime Master Thief.
Correct. Who will steal everything, including the RVD thumb thing.
Mine would probably have to be Shibata. Please tell me he's not retired.
Please don't die. Please don't die. Please don't die.
Pretty much. And, well, and of course, my chief boy of I want to see him get his ass kicked is Jack Evans. You will see that.
I have to have like an anti-boy stable. What would that even be called?
I don't know. The squash stable?
You don't know. It would be the glue factory.
The glue factory.
It's a stable that it's the stable you're never pulling out ever again. They're definitely
all right, I think that's more or less enough for now. We'll just kind of go over quickly what we're going to do in the upcoming times. So as touched upon earlier, Byron's not allowed to watch Lucha Underground because one of our things is we're going to watch Lucha Underground episodes together and record our kind of ongoing thoughts on the matter, and put that up, and hopefully people enjoy that. And if you've not gotten into Lucha Underground, you can totally watch with us actually, and kind of enjoy that experience.
We're like a quarter of the way into the third season?
Somewhere around there. You'll obviously know when we put up a video. We'll have the episode number in there and everything, and you will instantly know what it is we're watching. So if you want to pick up some Lucha Underground, however you want to do it, watch it with us. That's cool. We'll do some reviews of some events as people request them. We'll probably touch on just kind of some periodic updates on WWE just to go through it, because I don't think we have the stomach to do like a weekly review of it.
No, we could do like a monthly recap of like, this is what's going on, this is what they fucked up.
Yeah, because we definitely, like, it's gotten better, but it's definitely still at times kind of hard to stomach. And just kind of we'll be journeying on trying to tell you like when wrestling's doing it right in our eyes and when it's not. And man, I'm just thinking about a time here, and I know you marked out for this, and I know I marked out for this, but when Super Dragon returned to PWG, that was a great example of like just a lot of very small things going into a humongous moment where, for those who have not seen it, Kevin Steen was getting beaten down by the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks are talking trash about how they have a match with him and he doesn't have a tag team partner and all that. The lights go out. And when the lights come back, Super Dragon's in the ring with one of the Young Bucks in position for a curb stomp. Hits him with it. Hits the other Young Buck as well. And then Kevin Steen gets up and says, "It looks like I have a tag team partner." And I mean, it's amazing what those little things can get you. It can be the most innocuous of moments that remind you why you're a wrestling fan once again.
Hashtag bring back Human Tornado.
I'm fine with this. I was a big Human Tornado mark. So thank you for sticking with us, and hopefully we'll have some more soon. And
enjoy your stuff.
I don't want to like put a schedule out there until we really have that kind of hammered down.
I will pester Mio to do a podcast literally every single day. So it's all his fault.
He will do this. I have other things to do as well, so it may limit it.
Don't lie to the people.
I do. Just because I live on the computer doesn't mean I don't have things to do.
I suppose that might be true.
All right. So that's for now. We'll see you next time, probably with the Lucha Underground review.
Probably. Peace out.
Peace.